Next in line would be Councillor Morgan, then Stevenson. Please get your motions ready so that we can move immediately to those. As we still have limited time, but I think, well, we have limited time. I won't say what I think will happen. It's a foolish idea. While the doors are opening, if you have, to any members of council in the room here, if you have your scoring sheets or things with names on them, please put them up on the ledge here so our clerks can grab them, as we'd like to make sure that that is properly disposed of. Don't just put it in the regular recycle bin. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Grab it and put it up top. To the two on the far side there, make sure anything with names are put up on the ledge. The clerks will come by and grab them. So if you have a scoring sheet, please just make sure it's put up there. Anything with names. And Ms. Jacobson's coming along just to grab those. Thank you very much. Great. All right, are the doors open? We're ready to go. I can go to our two commissioners. Maybe Councillor Principe, did you want to make the motion? Do I have you here, Councillor Principe?
Oh, yes, thank you. That attachment 1 of the December 16th, 2025 Office of the City Clerk Report, OCC 03283, be revised as per the in-private discussion at the December 16, 17, 2025 City Council meeting and be approved. And number 2, that the December 16, 2025 Office of the City Clerk Report OC 03283 remain private pursuant to sections 20, disclosure harmful to personal privacy, and 29, advice from officials of the Access to Information Act.
Second.
Councillor Stevenson seconds. Please vote.
Councillor Principe is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe.
Elliott's a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried 13-0. That leaves us with our motions pending. I don't believe there's anything else related to the 9-1 or 9-2. So next we'll be moving to item 10-3, which is the Permanent Enhanced Cleaning Evaluation Plan. Councillor Morgan, if you can read the motion in just one more time.
Sure. So that administration provide a report with an evaluation plan and timelines for measuring the results of the permanent enhanced cleaning as outlined on pages 41 and 42 in attachment 2 of the November 24th, 2025 Financial and Corporate Services Report, FCS 03158, Fall 2025 Supplemental Operating Budget Adjustment, 2023 to 2026 Operating Budget.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Second.
I think I heard Councillor Principe first. So Councillor Morgan, you have up to 2 minutes to introduce.
Thank you. So I'm introducing the subsequent motion as follow-up to the motion to provide ongoing permanent enhanced cleaning for Edmonton Transit Service approved during our recent budget adjustments. I know the value of this service provided us in response to the challenges, specifically Edmonton Transit Service workers faced during the pandemic and the subsequent years. During that time, our system carried on as an essential service for essential workers and remained open as one of the only publicly accessible spaces available to those with little options for shelter otherwise. During that time, our buses and LRVs became spaces overwhelmed with refuse, graffiti, vandalism, and waste. This contributed feelings of unease, insecurity, and trauma for our riders and transit workers. As the pandemic waned, the need for this response carried on post-pandemic, and our cleaning services remained an essential service, just like our other workers that carried us through the pandemic at great personal risk. As such, I was happy to approve the funding for this service during this recent budget adjustment period with the caveat that I'm making today. So our tax levy increase of 6.9% ensures that our essential public services that Edmontonians rely on remain strong and that our workers are heard, seen, respected, and valued. That tax levy is also a lot for many Edmontonians. To ensure that we are getting the value for dollars spent, I need to know that every dollar spent is valued. This service, although essential during a time of crisis, was not a regularly funded service prior to that crisis. During our budget adjustment discussions, I asked for the data to back up the need, and I didn't receive it. So I supported the line item regardless to ensure no disruption to what I see as an essential service, but now for due diligence and financial accountability, I'm formally asking today for that evidence needed to back up that assertion, to carry on with this important work, and if not, we have a duty to redirect those essential services to other areas. Looking forward to hearing any questions my council colleagues have for me or for administration. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Paquette for questions.
Yes. I don't understand the utility of the motion, so maybe unpack that a little bit. We're measuring to see if cleaning is effective, or extra cleaning is extra effective?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing.
Through the chair.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Is it-
Go.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Right on. All right.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess what I'm seeing, or I'm just asking for some sort of evaluation method to know that this service is still required. It wasn't required before the pandemic. I don't know if the same challenges are there on our system. I don't have a way of judging that, and as a line item, I just need to know that it's still valued.
Got it. To administration, do we have a baseline from which we're starting?
Thanks, Councillor. It's Carrie from ETS. I think this will give us an opportunity to put together a list of all the different ways that we can measure efforts in this area. In terms of a baseline, I would say yes. We definitely have a good solid outline of our service levels when it comes to cleaning, if that's what you're referencing.
Yeah. Like, do we have, like, this was the cleanliness level in need pre-pandemic, during pandemic, post-pandemic?
I think that's some of what we can explore with this for sure. Consistently in our rider research, we hear from riders that they want more cleaning. So even beyond the current service levels. So that's just one slice of this. There's the occupational health and safety side as well in terms of removing hazards.
Yeah.
And those types of
I
aspects.
guess I'm just curious about the metrics we'd use to measure this, and whether we have measurements from before, during, and after that would actually make the endeavor meaningful.
Yeah, and I think that's what we would work on as part of a report, if this goes forward, is bringing that all together. Some of the examples, we do have, like I say, the rider research side. We do have our hazard assessment process and the occupational health and safety part of this. We have SOPs that we could do a detailed review on. And there's likely other data points we could try and pull in as well.
Okay. And do we have generally a cost estimate of what this report would be?
Well, I think it would be net new work.
Yeah,
Like,
sorry, go ahead.
My apologies. It would be net new work that we would undertake. So we would pull together people that are working in the LRT area that oversee this to support the report. And then we have staff that help us prepare our council report. So it would require resources from both areas.
Right. Do we have any idea of how many hours we're looking at?
Not off the top
Approximately?
of my
Ballpark?
head.
I'm just wondering, like, for the allocation and for the report, whether, and the information we hope to derive, and for what purpose we want the information if this goes ahead. I'm just trying to figure out why and how.
Yeah, a rough estimate off the top of my head, probably looking at maybe a total of 40 hours worth of work across several different people, because there's data collection, determining what data sources and components of an evaluation should be brought together, and then the writing of the report, and then doing all of the adjustments once it goes through review. So it's a 13-week report process. There's lots of steps in that process, but this is like napkin math off the top of my head. I'm going to guesstimate maybe 40 hours.
Yeah, no worries. And then I guess Okay, I'm never not in favor of information. I'm just, maybe to the mover one more time. What is the deliverable for the public and for council?
Again, just making sure that we have value for our dollars on this if we still need this service, or if we can direct those services to other priorities.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chance?
Thank you. To administration. Now, this was called enhanced transit cleaning, but essentially all it is continuing the baseline cleaning that we've had for the last 5 years. Am I correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So it's the extra cleaning that we do for the LRV cars themselves, and then the extra cleaning in our facilities.
And we've had multiple presentations and studies that cite, as part of safety and feeling safe on transit, that cleanliness is a part of that, correct?
It's actually, yeah, it's one of the top reasons that riders point out feeling safe, and they want more cleaning. It's always in our top 3.
And while this is titled permanent enhanced cleaning, really what it is a continuation of baseline cleaning. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's a continuation of the cleaning levels that we've had for the last few years.
And what is their ridership growth since 2019? 16%?
So at the end of, I believe, end of October, we were 16% higher than 2019 levels.
So we have a transit annual service plan with goals and objectives that we use to hold the service accountable. Is cleanliness factored in somewhere in that report? Or do we have a different set of metrics and deliverables? Like I'm sympathetic to my colleagues' intent of trying to find value for dollar and accountability here. I'm also concerned about, like, are we meeting rider expectations for service delivery? When you look at, we have 60 million trips on transit compared to sometimes just 1,000 trips on the road, but then we spend so much more money on the road. How do we evaluate? Is that in the annual service plan? Is that somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could take that back if that's the will of council. I could definitely look at adding a component to the annual service plan. We do talk about results, as you said, and we reflect on the previous year's results. So that could make sense if that's something that council is interested in.
And is this somewhere in the rider satisfaction surveys?
Yeah, it is. So, like I say, that's one of the pillars of measurement is assessing how riders are feeling about cleanliness, and we do a qualitative analysis as well of their feedback.
Okay. Maybe just if I may speak to it quickly, so then I don't.
Nope.
Oh, damn.
Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To administration, when, what would be considered standard reporting? Because when I look at this motion, I feel like this should be something that we would always, whenever we're funding anything, that we should have KPIs of the value for money over this. Can maybe give me some sense of, would this, as pointed out before, is it somewhere else that we would be able to see the value for money on this service?
Yeah, so I think there's several different components. So we have our enterprise performance management system with different KPIs for each of the services. So of the 72 services, we all have a core list of KPIs. What this item is talking about is a specific service level component, looking at that additional cleaning we've been doing for the LRVs and the facilities. And now that that's permanent, it sounds like it's more to do with that specific component. So it's a little bit different, but you're right. There's other ways that we report our performance. That's typically for us. Our annual service plan is used across Canada for transit services to communicate the results, how things went, and here's the plan for this year in terms of what we're going to do and the funded changes that have been made. So there's different ways that we report back.
Thank you. And so it's clear that the enhanced service or the enhanced cleaning has been very positive. When would this be now permanent? Now this would be like our new baseline standard of how we would clean the LRVs moving forward?
That's correct. So that was the budget proposal that council approved in the fall budget process, is making this our ongoing service level for cleaning. And like I said, we do have very positive feedback from riders and from staff, both groups, about the cleaning. And comments are actually they want more cleaning. And yeah, that was the decision that was made in the fall budget.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Tang?
Thank you. Appreciate the mover for bringing this forward because that has some similar thought process. I guess first to the mover, you're hearing a lot around evaluation using rider satisfaction or staff satisfaction. Is that kind of the level of evaluation you're looking for, or is there something else you had in mind?
I guess during this process, I asked, like, just a base question of like, if we had 10 garbage bags of garbage each train coming up, do we still have that level of garbage still on the train?
Right.
And that's my perception as a rider, too, is are we still having that much
Right.
refuse on our trains? That
Or
need to
are we
be
picking
removed?
up, additionally every year, significantly more needles, for example, and spill cleanup and frequency of that? So Carrie, what I'm hearing is that to do that level of evaluation, you need additional resource rather than sort of an embedded process.
Yeah, I mean, our focus is on the results and not necessarily at a branch level of monitoring the number of bags of garbage per shift, et cetera, et cetera. What we do know, there still continues to be disorder that we're all working on, and that does create litter and it does create hazards at times that everyone is very sensitive to. Removing those hazards, to create that more welcoming and safe rider environment and for staff. So that is definitely an ongoing concern. And I think as our discussions around homelessness figures and, et cetera, as those numbers grow, we're still seeing the impact of some of those behaviors within transit. And that's not unique to Edmonton, it's across the country. We're all implementing these enhanced responses.
Yeah, and then the basic cleaning that we approved, that was just for buses, correct?
Yeah, exactly. There were different components. So
Yeah.
maintaining the
Okay.
current level of bus cleaning.
And
That
then
was,
the enhanced is for RVs.
Yeah, so it's the in-service LRV cleaning. So at the end of line at Clairview, our team does a deep clean of the train cars. And we did have a number of high-profile media reports
Yep.
prior to this of hazards and cleanliness issues on the trains. And then the enhanced cleaning in our facilities across the network. So same thing, instead of just doing once a day, we're actually able to be there at different times of day doing that ongoing cleaning. So when riders come first thing in the morning for peak service, they're seeing a clean environment, whereas before they'd be seeing all of the litter and debris from the previous day's kind of service cycle,
What did we
depending on the
do?
timing of
What did we do before the pandemic? So like none of that. There's no end of the service cleaning. When people showed up, there may or may not just be litter on the train.
Exactly, and it was a concern for the previous council pre-pandemic as well. I remember having those conversations of how do we explore ways to do more enhanced cleaning, and then the pandemic hit, and we all know what that caused as
So
well.
I mean, like we funded this. This is happening. I think all this is asking for is an evaluation, and I feel like some of those questions about level of cleanliness beyond just the perception from riders and staff with some quantitative indicators to me should be embedded as part of just a general service delivery. And it actually concerns me that we have to have additional resource to do evaluation. We should be doing evaluation across our services.
And we do, and I didn't say additional resources. I was asked the question of how much time would it take to work on this, and I identified that. It's within existing staff. It's not part of the work plan right now to develop this evaluation plan and to do this council report. We're happy to take on that work, and I was just sharing the estimate of time that I thought it might take to complete the report.
Yeah, because I imagine maybe colleagues might be thinking about if people are going to be taking time away from their current duty to do evaluation, then there's something else they're not doing.
Well, this would be a very specific request for something specific to this particular budget decision about the enhanced cleaning component. So it will take some work to make sure we're responding to the motion and writing that report and incorporating that. But as you said, we do performance management and measurement across all of our KPIs, and it definitely fits within kind of the spirit of making sure that we're effective and efficient.
Okay, thank you. Just the last question to the mover. Is your intent for an evaluation plan or just evaluation of the service?
I'd like to know the evaluation plan and the evaluation itself. So
Okay,
Is
is
that-
that
is that
clear
right?
to you, Carrie? That there is a evaluation component to this too, beyond just a plan?
Yeah, so when I read the motion, it talks about bringing forward the plan and then the timeline around doing the
That's
evaluation.
perfect. Councillor Principe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question. Ms. Houghton McDonald, did you say that this also includes graffiti removal or it does not?
So within the service level, they would be responding to it. They may need resources from the graffiti removal team to assist, but it's definitely all factored into this enhanced cleaning.
Okay, and are we doing anything to prevent the the increase in litter and graffiti that we're seeing? Or is there, because we do have a littering bylaw, is there any enforcement? Is there an increase in enforcement? What have we been doing to try to prevent that?
Yeah, so through the enhanced transit safety plan, for sure, this is definitely all intertwined. So the additional patrolling from our transit peace officers and Edmonton Police Service has been really helpful. I think in reality, we have 43 stations. We have a lot of trains in service. And because they are both responding to incidents and then have a portion of their resources doing the proactive work, there's just inherently going to be times that require this extra cleaning. Despite our best efforts, we also have surveillance cameras across the network, and we're responding to transit watch related reports as well. So we are trying to address it and be proactive and seeing that prevention aspect. But the reality is there continues to be a need for this enhanced cleaning.
Okay, has there been any consideration of maybe doing a little bit more enforcement in like the bylaw enforcement?
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone from community services.
Yeah, that
is-
may not be a fair
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
That's okay. You don't have to answer that today.
Yeah, I'm here. It's Jennifer Flaman from Community
Oh.
Services. Excellent questions around enforcement. The actual act of littering and being able to provide a fine, you need to catch someone in the act. And again, I think Carrie did an excellent job of just talking about the sheer volume of stations and our enforcement capacity and higher order events that we are responding to. So certainly when we witness it, we of course use our 4 E's of educating, engaging before we enforce, but those tools are all available to us. And again, when we catch in the act, we respond appropriately.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And I know that, you know, that we have followed the 4 E's and then there comes a time where maybe we would be looking at maybe trying a different approach, such as enforcement. And I'm not sure if that's something that is being considered.
Absolutely. And our peace officers are well trained. They are also able to read the situation and they understand how the best way to get compliance. And then they, in the moment, use their discretion to utilize whichever E is most appropriate.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Salvador.
Thank you. My understanding is that part of the funding previously for enhanced cleaning was actually provincial. Is that right?
Yeah, so originally we had a one-time grant from the provincial government that supported some of this enhanced cleaning.
Yeah. Do we know if they did any sort of evaluation as part of that funding?
Yeah, there was a requirement to follow up with them with performance reporting about the impact of the grant, and we met all of those requirements.
Okay. Is that also available? I apologize. Did we receive that as well, or is that just internal?
It would have been required through the contract, so I can take that away, and if it's appropriate, we can send that to council.
Okay.
If
Yeah, that'd be great. And then just a broader question. I really see enhanced cleaning as part of our larger sort of transit safety plan. And I'm just wondering when is the next time that we're going to have any sort of update on our broader transit safety plan. Is that already planned to come in front of us?
Yeah, so the previous council directed us to do quarterly progress memos to council communicating qualitative and quantitative results. We pressed pause during the election period. We literally just got sign off on the Q3 memo, so that's going to be sent imminently. And then we'll resume in the new year. We'll work on the end of year Q4 memo and just kind of resume that normal cycle of quarterly reporting.
Is this something that could be included as part of that quarterly memo?
Yes, I'd be open to that. We could include something in there for sure.
Okay, I wonder, maybe just to the mover, it seems like that might be another opportunity to sort of get the answers to what you're looking for in this motion, but to have it come forward as part of an existing process as opposed to like a standalone report. And I think that would also allow us to look at, I guess, transit safety more holistically, to say, hey, here are all the things that we're doing, here are the results that we're achieving, including that focus on the enhanced cleaning piece. I wonder, is that something that you might be open to?
Yeah, I guess I just worry about the evaluation process, and I'm looking for that, like, specifically, and I'm just not sure I'm hearing it yet, but, I mean, I do agree that the enhanced cleaning, like, having a clean train is definitely part of the safety, feelings of safety and general safety on the trains, and for our workers and our riders too, so.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Paquette, can you take the chair?
I have the chair.
Thank you. Maybe to the mover, so I appreciate the answer to that question. Maybe the question I might ask is slightly different, is that I hear you need that information. I think it's worth getting it. I'm just wondering if we can get that information, this specific information, in the form of a memo instead of a separate report at a committee meeting. I'm just wondering if you see value of one over the other. Have you?
I'm open.
Okay, I would say if it's okay, well, wait, I can't. I would either amend, or if it was the will of the consensus, to just amend that to say provide a memo instead of a report.
Okay, is that the motion you're putting on the floor?
And yeah, either, unless it's considered
A friendly adjustment?
by consensus.
Just quick question, would it be simpler in your mind to do a memo or an inquiry?
Memo,
Okay.
because this is new information.
Yeah, okay. Oh, it is, that's right. Okay, well, we'll see if there's any objection to this. Not seeing any. You are quite successful at being friendly.
Okay, then I'll take the chair back.
You have the chair.
With that adjustment. See nobody else on the board for questions. And seeing no one else on the board for questions, anyone wishing to speak to it, please click on the board. Oh, is there?
We're just reloading it with the new wording.
Yeah. I don't see anyone wishing to speak to it. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Salvador, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the mover for bringing this forward. I think it's really important that we are taking a critical look at all of our lines of service and programs, and being able to evaluate their effectiveness. I really appreciate the openness for this to come forward as a memo. I think that's makes a lot of sense in my mind, and will actually get us the information that we're seeking sooner rather than later. So yeah, just wanted to express my gratitude. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do appreciate the impetus behind this, and also the friendly amendment, which makes it a lot simpler to support. But I'm going to be a curmudgeon and still not support it. It's simply because I get it. I get where the drive is coming from, but it's so granular at this point that it's, I'd rather administration just carry on with the work that they do, because I've heard absolutely nothing from the public saying, hey, can we spend a little less on cleaning? In fact, generally they're saying, can we have more cleaning? And maybe this memo says, like, hey, council, you should actually invest more in cleaning. So maybe there is a utility to that. But maybe I'm talking myself into supporting this. Yeah, maybe I am. Okay, good thing I had a little self-chat.
Self-chats are always great. Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is a great example where we have diverse expertise around the table. And Councillor Morgan, I defer to him with a deep knowledge of the transit system and specifically LRT. So I feel like if he's asking for this information, there is something behind it and worth digging into. So I absolutely defer to the expertise of the councillor that was the mover, and will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan to close.
Thanks. So I appreciate everyone's thoughtful questions and considerations of the subsequent motion. It's important that we celebrate and support the good work that our public servants provide in the service of Edmontonians, while also respecting Edmontonians' ability to keep up with rising costs across the board. We have a responsibility to always protect and strengthen our public services while remaining accountable to those that have trusted us to represent them. Subsequent motion is a missing piece of this puzzle in my mind, and so I encourage my council colleagues to support so that we may have a view of the entire picture to guide our decision-making and that of Edmonton Transit's. As an aside, I'd like to say that I ride transit and LRT pretty frequently from my home in the south. Things are looking pretty good to me while commuting on our system, even from where we were 6 months ago. And I understand that ridership is up even over pre-pandemic levels. I feel safe on our system, and it's my go-to to avoid traffic and connect with my neighbors on the way to work. That's a success story, and I think we can safely say it's thanks to our incredible team at Edmonton Transit for the work they do on a daily basis. I sincerely thank our transit team, from our management and admin to our operators, inspectors, and cleaners in the field, to everyone in between, for making our transit system safer and cleaner for all. Without that leadership from the front lines to the very top of Edmonton Transit dedicated to working together, we wouldn't be where we are today. So thanks for your service.
Thank you. Please vote.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. Waiting for one vote. Councillor Elliott, are you still with us?
Vote went through. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you now. Yes. Can you say it again?
I'm a yes, please.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried 13-0. Next, 10.4, one-time multi-year programs. Councillor Stevenson, please read in the motion.
Thank you very much. I didn't know I had to reread it. I'm prepared otherwise. The administration provided a report to committee outlining programs, grants, and initiatives with one-time multi-year funding that will end at the 2023-2026 budget. And that would be Q2 at Executive Committee.
Thank you. Let me wait to get a seconder, because we had to do notices so the seconders didn't carry over from budgets.
Sure, second.
Seconded by Councillor Tang. Please take your 2 minutes to introduce.
Thanks very much. So we've just been through a challenging budget process, and it's only going to get harder. A facet of the four-year budgeting process is that we do hear from external community groups. We hear Edmontonians coming forward with great ideas and with a lot of passion for the work that they're doing. Something that I want to be prepared for is that we made a number of decisions 4 years ago to fund external organizations, to fund different initiatives. And those have been humming along quietly in the background, but a lot of those decisions were not for ongoing funding. They are going to be stopping at the end of next year. So my intent with this motion is to ensure that we have a really clear line of sight on the programs and initiatives that will lose their funding at the end of this year. This, I think, will just help us be prepared and come up with budget strategies, help us to start to do some of that prioritization work before the fall. And the intent is, especially for external agencies, to make sure that we're having conversations with them about the need for the funding and potentially helping them to start to transition if it's not looking likely that they'll have a champion to support ongoing funding in the next budget cycle. That's the intent. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Tang, questions?
I think similar to the previous one, does it have to be a report? Can it be a memo? I feel like we do get memos like this quite frequently.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You're right that it's more about having information than having a public conversation. My only thought is that if external groups did want to come forward and provide some initial presentations in advance of budget, this could be a forum for it. But
they also have the opportunity to do that during the 4-year budget like everyone else.
absolutely. And it's more just around that timeline. I think that the more we're doing ahead of time, the less pressure we feel around the 4-year. But certainly open to that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a friendly, I'd like to amend it to a memo.
Okay, let me just do a quick check to see if anyone objects to this being considered a memo. I'm not hearing any objections to it being a memo, so we'll make that change. Thank you. Councillor Tang, go ahead.
Yeah, just to wrap up my thought there, I think they'll still provide the line of sight that I think you were seeking to the mover, so thank you for the openness to that.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, questions?
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering, does that include like the FCSS funding as well?
If that's to the mover, my intent is yes, for any program. So even something like the Downtown Vibrancy Fund, that's multi-year. It's not ongoing. So I think that there's probably more skeletons in this closet than we're kind of aware of. So my intent is to get all of that on the table. So both, internal programs and initiatives that are multi-year, and then external grants that we've provided as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There are no other.
It's going to be a big memo.
Yeah, that's not a question, but thank you. There are no other questions on the board. Seeing no other questions, anyone wishing to speak, please click on the board. Not seeing any. Councillor Stevenson to close.
Yeah, thanks to the suggestion to make it a memo. I think that helps us get the information we need. And just thank you to administration for your openness on this. Again, I know it's going to be pulling a lot of information together, but I think it will set us up for success and productive conversations next fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote.
Just waiting for one vote. Councillor Elliott?
I do see Councillor Elliott unmuted. Councillor Elliott, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
We can, yeah.
Oh, I'm a yes, please.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. And that is carried 13-0. Final motion pending 10.5 Integrated Call Evaluation Dispatch Initiative. That's Councillor Stevenson. Please go ahead and read what is on the screen, please.
Thank you. So I'll move that administration work with the Edmonton Police Service to provide a report with an update on the Integrated Call Evaluation and Dispatch Initiative, including how the community safety and wellbeing strategy funding has been used to support integrated dispatch.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Tang. Please take up to 2 minutes to introduce.
Thank you very much. So an integrated call evaluation and dispatch center was one of the key recommendations coming out of the Safer for All report. I think it's a really great initiative that's focused on ensuring that we're getting the right resources, the right responses. We have been committing millions of dollars through the Community Safety and Wellbeing Fund towards this initiative. And this would just be an opportunity to touch base, to understand what progress has been made, what direction the initiative is taking, and determine paths forward. As we discovered in our recent capital budget adjustment, the city is now investing in a number of separate call dispatch centers. So for me, it's just a trigger to want to understand if an integrated physical space is still envisioned, if we're looking at other methods of achieving the same outcomes in terms of collaboration with a range of emergency response groups and other external agencies. I would actually suggest that be the appropriate committee rather than City Council, and that would be fine to be Q2 or even Q3.
Okay, we'll update that to reflect that. Thank you. Councillor Principe with questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, one of my questions was just answered by the mover, but I do have a question for administration. Just want to see if administration has any concerns with this report, or if this is something that's just, doable.
Yeah, this is Jennifer from Community Services. No concerns with this report, and looking forward to it if it's council's will.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I see no other questions on the board. Anyone wishing to speak to it? Not seeing any. Any closing comments, Councillor Stevenson?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote.
I'm a yes, please.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. We have all the votes.
Thank you very much. Please display the vote. That is carried 13-0. Are there any notices of motion or motions
Chair.
without customary notice?
I have a notice motion.
Perfect. Go ahead. And then anyone else can click on the board too if they have notices.
Thank you. I move that the mayor, on behalf of City Council, advocate to the provincial government to enable grocery store competition via the removal of restrictive covenants and exclusivity controls for grocery stores via the Land Titles Act or other legislation.
Thank you. So notice has been received. That'll be debated at the council meeting once we're back from the break. Any other notices of motion? I don't see anyone on the board, but I just want to make sure that the board is there. Good. There's nothing else on the board. Therefore, we are adjourned at 11:48. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you all for a separate council meeting at 1:30 today.